Welcome to the Future 3 podcast. Boom. I'm Sean,
I'm Shaylin.
And I'm Cyan.
and we are the Future 3 podcast.
Today's guest is a warrant MBA, a former PwC consultant, and a finance leader at Bristol Myers Squibb. His journey blends family values, global impact, and he is very passionate about mentoring the next generation. Give it up for Mr. Sai.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I just have a quick little question. Drake or Meek Mill?
Drake, for sure.
Really?
Hi.
He's Canadian. I'm originally from Canada as well.
Yeah, you are. And then you moved here. How old were you when you moved here?
So I was just entering high school. So like born in Toronto, Canada, moved to the South Brunswick, Princeton area when we were entering high school, and then pretty much been in Jersey or Philly for most of my life with a little bit of a stint in Japan.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, I mean, I kind of have to ask, why did you move from Canada to Jersey in the first place?
Yeah, no, great question. So my father actually got a new job and relocated the whole family to New Jersey. So he started at a company. He was in corporate finance as well, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But he got relocated to good old New Jersey. So the whole family picked up and moved just to continue to, for him to further, grow his career, but also to provide us a better life.
What company was he working for at the moment that
So yeah,
moved
he worked
here?
for American Standards, right? And at the time, they owned a bunch of different sub companies, but what they were really known for, and I would joke around with my dad, is they make all like the bathroom fixtures, like toilets,
Yeah.
sinks, all these different things. So basically, my dad worked for a toilet company, but he was in corporate finance.
Yeah, I see that name all over a bunch of toilets.
That's pretty unique. I never heard of someone working for a toilet company.
Yeah.
That's a first
Yeah.
for sure.
We got discounts on all our toilets growing up, so we had the cutting edge technology when it came to that stuff.
That's epic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so rewinding back into the days, your high school life, before titles, before college, or any of that pressure, what is one thing you wish you knew about choosing a career or a college path?
No, it's a great question, right? If I could go back, not to stress over it too much, right? What I learned is, what I thought I wanted to be when I was in high school changed like 2 or 3 times before I ended up on a career I was really passionate about. So, like, if I went back, I think when I started, like when I was a kid, I wanted to be an architect. I loved Legos, I loved everything. And then as I kept on progressing, and when I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a doctor. I'd actually taken an accounting class in high school, and I really found that class super interesting. But I didn't want to disappoint the parents, so I kept focused on medicine and wanted to pursue that. And I actually applied to schools thinking about that. Actually entered university as a bio major, and then I quickly changed over and changed universities actually to go to Drexel from Penn State, and I ended up doing business. So, like, what I would tell folks is not to sweat exactly what you want to do. Just have a general understanding, and if anything, when you're in high school and going into university, explore as much as you can, right? And really find what you're passionate about, because inevitably, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what's valued will lead to a long and fruitful career.
Yeah, I I have a similar connection because I love building Legos. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know
man. I
if
still do
I love
Legos
it.
with my daughter right now.
It's so fun. And then right now, I'm taking an accounting class, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right.
And mom really wants him to build NFL stadiums, which is really crazy because that's a really big ask.
I think that's pretty cool, but it all starts somewhere, right? So
Yeah,
you can make some mini Lego football stadiums, and I heard rumors that the
Mhm.
Eagles might be getting a new stadium. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I actually just built the link from the mini Lego blocks.
Oh, very cool.
Legos are actually really fun. And for me, they're pretty peaceful, honestly. It's kind of like my way to like unwind and chill and focus my mind on something other than all the chaos going on outside of my Lego set, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally hear where you're coming from. Actually, I find it the same way. I just get to relive it with Mila, my 8-year-old daughter. So like that's what we bond over. We'll do Lego, we'll have some music in the background, just and we're building it together. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Okay,
sick.
so shifting back away from the Legos back into your high school life, did you have any pressure to figure it all out?
Yeah, like, I think it's probably pressure I put on myself, right? I think I thought every decision I was gonna make and I needed to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And at the time, every decision I was making, I would stress over, right? And when I look back on it, fortunately for me, my parents always wanted me to do well, have good grades. I just happened to be an academic kid, so that wasn't really my issue. If anything, probably as I got into my senior year and went into university, it was just staying focused.
I mean, honestly, having supportive parents is kind of relieving, to be honest, because it's not like, well, for me at least, I don't feel like, oh, I'm gonna have to have everything figured out. I feel like maybe I feel like even if I do pick something and maybe it doesn't work out, which knock on wood, hopefully it does, my parents will still be there to support me and kind of have my back throughout this journey. Is that kind of the feeling that you had when you were maybe in high school trying to hope that everything worked out in the future?
Yeah, nah, 200%. Like I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now, but having like really supportive parents who also were role models, right? Like I actually have an older brother. He was a great role model and someone throughout my life, even as recent as today, continues to advise me as I navigate different choices. So yeah, I think, parents are a different dynamic, but at the end of the day, what you'll find out is you kind of own and manage your own destiny, right? So whether it's in high school and the classes you take, and then even when you get into your career, honestly, you're constantly thinking through choices. And at the end of the day, you choose where you navigate. You're not in control of everything, but you really make most of those decisions.
Yeah, and you mentioned classes. I'm really interested in what classes you took as a kid.
So like, high school's high school, but I
Yeah,
would say the ones that I liked the most in high school were more science oriented or math oriented, right? So
yeah.
I tend to take all those classes. And when I got to university, and I'll just tell you the one thing about high school and college, and I went back for my MBA, it's just really teaching you how to learn, right? You get some concepts down. You get like, what does it mean to be a treasurer or a marketer or, digital or technology? But at the end of the day, you're really just absorbing as a sponge and learning how to learn on the fly. And then when you start to work, you actually apply all those learnings and continue to learn even exponentially. So like, I would say my favorite courses, were they started off science and math and then they went more towards business, so like accounting, marketing, corporate like kind of strategy or M&A type courses about mergers and acquisitions. So like I was a finance geek, I would say.
Huh.
Did you see yourself as an AP student in class in high school? Because I know nowadays, I mean, like it's a lot of pressure. People want you to be in APs because, the college race, it's so competitive. Was it like that for you? And were you that guy that was in all APs or like,
Yeah.
and that truly exceeded in those classes?
No, it's a great question. Actually, it's funny. I think the pressures on kids today are a little bit more. I think
Mhm.
I did take about 3 or 4 AP courses, but little known fact, I took all those courses again in my first year of college just because even though some of them would have counted, I wanted to take and really make sure I got the whole concept of the course. So not as much pressure, not as much requirements for extracurricular and things like that. But what I found myself doing is I did volunteer during high school. I did get involved in the community. But I always tell everyone if I could go back and do it all over again, just take your time, enjoy the journey, right? Enjoy those moments. Try to balance it with a little bit of like fun and a little bit of life with a little, that goes with school because like those times are precious.
Yeah, what's the biggest difference between high school and college? Because I feel like
Yeah.
going from middle school to high school was a pretty big step up because of the different classes you had to take, the different school and navigating through the hallways.
Yeah, I think freedom. So
Freedom.
like in high school, you still have your parents, right? You're required and there's attendance taken and you have structure around high school or even extracurricular activities. So you have a lot of structure and you have your parental influence, right? Like college, that's a phone call most likely if your parents are going to call you. And you have a lot more time, a lot more flexibility, and you're on your own, right? So the biggest difference is like how you manage your time versus in high school, I think it was how you were told to manage your time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of college, what made you want to go to Penn State and then switch over to Drexel?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, right? Little known facts. But so my older brother Ram, he went to Penn State, right? And just growing up and always looking up to him and actually going to visit him at Penn State. And when I went there, it just blew my mind away. It felt like I was in a different world. Not to mention the security blanket of having family like your older brother there.
Hmm.
And they had a great education and academical course. And so that's how I ended up going to Penn State. Now, fast forward, I had a ton of fun at Penn State, and then as I took my first organic chemistry class, I quickly learned that medicine and science might not be my cup of tea. And in parallel, I was taking a few business classes that I continue to have a lot more passion about. And while I could have switched majors at Penn State, I really ended up applying to Drexel and going to Drexel because of their cooperative education program, because you get to work a little bit and go to school. And it was a fresh start of sorts. But like I mentioned to you guys earlier, like you really have to manage your own career and manage your own life. And I made that decision, took the risk, and it ended up paying a lot of dividends. So a lot of fun. I actually met your father when I went to Drexel, and that's how we got to know each other. And he had a great influence on me there as well. So that's why I switched it, and I had no regrets. It turned out to be a great move.
Yeah, Philly's a great city to be a part of, especially because of the Eagles. Go Birds.
Exactly. During back in the day, it was the Allen Iverson era. We had the NBA
Oh
All-Star
yeah.
game when we were in Philly, and it was a different time. But we didn't really taste victory until more recently.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know you got your MBA. Why did you decide to go for an MBA?
For me, why I went back for the NBA was for a few reasons. One, I wanted to continue to learn more of the academic or the theory behind certain topics that I had faced while working. So I went back for that. That was one reason. The other reason for the network, right? Like I still stay in touch with all my classmates from that, especially the ones that were in my immediate cohort or group. And then three, like it opened up more doors. It's a great resume booster. I will tell you, since going back from my MBA, whether directly correlated or not, I just feel like there's more opportunities available to me. So those three reasons, I would say, to continue to sharpen my academic or theory behind certain topics, it was to build my network, and it was to open up more doors and improve my resume.
And while we're on the topic of college, mom mentioned to me that if y- that you said if she named me Sai, that you would pay for my college tuition, which I was like, please name me Sai.
It's funny. I don't think you had a lot of influence on your name, right? But I do recall that conversation with your mother. And, there was a time in my life, it was before I got married. I lived pretty close to your parents. I was over all the time. And, the twins, you guys were just babies, right? And I remember before you were born, Cyan, I think your parents were considering different names. And I did make that promise, but I know you're going to get a scholarship, so I'm not worried.
Yeah.
No,
You sure?
but I did make that promise. And hey, that is a true factual story.
Quite a lot of promises being made there. So, anyways, I want to fast forward kind of to your career. You're in corporate finance and consulting. So, do you want to give us a quick explanation of what exactly that job entails?
Yeah, no, of course. So let me start off by just talking about like corporate finance and what that profession means, right? What one of my primary responsibilities are is to figure out how do you allocate money and where you spend money across the whole company. The one like analogy I use, right, is like if I was to use the Philadelphia Eagles, like their whole organization, right? Think of the players as like the scientists or like the marketing folks, and think of corporate finance as like Eagles front office or the GM, right? Like Howie Roseman, right? And we're thinking about like, how do what do you invest in, right? Like that's like a draft of players. You have a salary cap, so you can't just keep on spending endlessly. You have to spend within a reason, right? And then you're thinking about, are you going to invest in your defense or your offense? How are you going to mix different things up? And at the end of the day, you want success. You want a Super Bowl run, and in a corporate setting, you want to drive value, right? You want to definitely address and help patients that are in need, but you also want to make money for shareholders, and it's part of the whole environment. But like I almost equate it to that. Like think of us as almost the GM within a corporate setting.
So it's basically you're trying to find that balance between making money so you're not spending too much while still trying to find solutions, right? And like medical solutions and things like that.
Yeah, no, you guys nailed it. It's, people get caught up and think like finance is all about the numbers. But it's like, how are we using those numbers, exactly what you said, to come up and invest to address certain solutions or certain innovations? And it's always kind of like, keeping a balance. Like just think about it like for even yourselves, right? Like you might get an allowance or something like that. Where do you want to spend it? How do you want to use it? And how can you benefit from it?
Yeah, it's kind of like you have to build up of what you already have.
That's
Exactly.
interesting. So, I mean, I feel like I kind of got the general rundown of what your job is, but what is one common misconception or things that people may not know about your job that you want to tell us?
Yeah. Like, I joke around with my family because, they think in finance or accounting, all we're doing is, using a calculator, running the numbers. We're all about the numbers, right? But
Yeah, that's
funny
what I
enough,
would think.
yeah, exactly. Right. But, interesting enough, yeah, I do like numbers. I do deal with a lot of numbers. I'm in spreadsheets all the time. But the reality is, what you really do is you try to connect the numbers to what's going on in the business. Right. And you really have to understand what the business objective or strategy is, right? So, like, what I would say is it's what people don't realize is you really have to know the business in order to do your job. And then the second thing I would say is it's more than just the numbers. Like, you learn the numbers and the technical aspects of finance in the first part of your career. But if you want to grow your career and continue to progress up the kind of corporate ladder, it's really then about leadership skills, like those softer skills, like how do you communicate? How do you manage people? How do you develop people? How do you, drive decision making? So it's like a lot of softer skills that, only come with experience. To grow one's career means to grow all your softer skills.
Yeah, I feel like leadership is really important for basically every single job you have.
Yeah, even in like the NFL, a quarterback is like the main leader of the offense, and they communicate everywhere.
I feel like all the bench players also have to have some type of leadership because everyone on that team has to be able to contribute.
It's a great observation that you're making because, like you said, like you see the quarterback running up and down the sidelines, kind of motivating his offensive line or getting his wide receivers in the game. Like that's one of the one key leadership roles. But like you said, it's a team sport. I love that analogy, right? Like that applies very much to business and to a corporate environment or any environment. Like at the end of the day, there's no one individual in a corporate or in a large business like I'm in that's going to drive value. It's a combination of people and a team, right? Some individuals bring the best out of others. And when you think about leadership, it really is about unleashing or unlocking the full potential of the team that you're part of, right? And that analogy runs into everything that you do. So you're absolutely correct.
And staying on topic of that analogy of being a leader and kind of growing, also, we know that when you're growing, there's also have to be growing pains. So, as you were kind of progressing, did you hit any kind of unexpected turns, like maybe moving to a whole nother country, wink, wink, or and how did you handle those challenges?
Yeah, no, it's great. Maybe, I'll share two examples of challenges, right? And I'll get to your wink, wink in my second example. But, like just as you're coming up to the ranks, right? And when you're in a career, right? Some years you have a uh, great outcome. Like you're working through things, you're delivering on everything that's expected. You're viewed very favorably, right? You're given a raise, you're given recognition, all those good things. But like probably the one thing that was unexpected was how important it is to get feedback throughout the process, right? Like I started my career and even my academic career always getting good grades, always feeling like things were great. But when I started my work career, what I found out was really important was getting really good feedback. And I remember the first time I got really constructive feedback, I didn't react really well to it, right? I started to self reflect, I started to get defensive. But as I continued my career, what I found out is feedback is a gift, right? And you really, no matter, even if you had a great year, there's always feedback to think about something different to do or to get more exposure to something. So, that's one thing that I didn't realize, that constructive feedback is one of the best gifts you can get, whether you're in high school, college, or in a career.
Yeah, there's always something to grow on.
Yeah, exactly. So think about like when you guys play soccer, you play basketball, like your coach is constantly probably giving you feedback or coaching, right? It's just another
And dad.
form. But it's really making you better, right? The second example, right, which was totally unexpected, is when I started my career and growing up, I never thought I would be living in like halfway across the world. And as I mentioned to you, my job at Bristol Myers Squibb took me to Japan to become the CFO. But what's really interesting about that move was it was much more than just a career move, right? At the time, I was married, so my wife Rupal, my daughter, she was only a year and a half. Her name's Mila. It was really a family journey and adventure, right? And I remember making that move super nervous, right? You're going halfway across the world. You're far away from your your comfort zone or your family and friends. But what I asked and what we talked to a lot of folks who had done moves and learned from them their experiences. We had talked to each other. Like I didn't make the move because of my career. It definitely helped the career, but I made it because one, we thought it was the best thing for our family, and two, we wanted to go on an adventure as a family. And my lesson learned and what I would share with all of you is, push your boundaries, right? Sometimes the things that make you nervous or the most unknown are the ones that are going to be the most rewarding. And it might feel like a risk at the time, but you got to take risks. Not all of them will pan out, but when they do, they turn out to be really, really special, right?
I want to take a step back to you were talking about before you made that move to Japan, you were kind of talking to people who were kind of mentoring you on different things that you might have encountered or different factors that might take a hit on you while you're gone. How did that kind of mentorship shape your journey in moving to a whole halfway across the world?
Yeah, no, it's I think mentorship and role models, like I've been blessed to have several of them throughout my life, from my father to my brother to your father, right, who's been a great advisor to me, to then folks at work, or college professors. For the Japan example in particular, I went to people who had done similar moves, right, and asked them, how was the transition, how was it from a work perspective, how was it from a personal perspective, what were some of the watch outs or the lessons learned. And what I learned from it, people are really gracious to share. And, you could apply that no matter where you go, right? Like getting perspectives are really important. I think it's super important throughout your life to have people who are always giving you advice.
Yeah.
Exactly. And having a mentor, that can go from like high school all the way to your work life and finding different perspectives because having those different perspectives help you gain an objective point of view so that bias isn't present.
I would even ask you three a question, like, who have been your advisors in setting up this whole podcast?
Oh, mom and
Mom
dad.
and dad.
Mom and dad,
For
yeah.
sure.
And also kind of there was the whole reason that this came about was we were in a meeting with a college counselor, and she asked, "What do you want to do in your future?" We all literally just froze on the spot.
We all said sports.
Yeah, exactly. We all just resorted to sports immediately. We were like, sports?
Because that's what we're familiar with.
Exactly. And so then we kind of thought about it and we were like, wait, maybe this podcast would be good. It's kind of bringing the career fair to our viewers and to us even.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's working.
You're always mentioning advice like through this podcast. And I think it's great that you're surrounding yourself with others that are always giving you advice to help you grow. But let's turn the tables. What is one piece of advice you would give to a high school student trying to figure it all out?
It's a great question, right? I would say if I was to go back and give advice to you three or any high schooler, it's a couple of things. One, don't be in a rush, right? Like take your time, enjoy the moment. Like, because it might feel like it's stressful, right? Or you might want to just quickly get on to the next chapter of your life. But life goes by too fast, right? And when you look back, those memories and those events or those activities, those are what keep you going. So like what I tell people is like slow down, just try to enjoy the moment, right? Try not to stress out because life will be full of different choices and not all those choices are in your control, right? And just try to look at the world as half glass full, not half empty, right? So that's what I would say. Slow down and smell the roses.
Yes, great.
That's a great piece of advice.
So maybe I'll ask you guys a couple of questions, right?
Let's do
Because
it.
you guys are pretty good at firing off great questions. But maybe like, a couple of things for you. You've had a few podcasts so far. You've got to get good insights from a variety of folks. Like how's that shaped your own thinking for where you might want to go or what's the best advice you've heard from people?
I think I think the best piece of advice is like what you just said. You should just slow down, live a stress-free life, and smell the roses. Because I think that stress is a really big part to why people are falling back.
It's great. Yeah. Maybe another question for you guys. I guess you've been doing this. Like, what's the biggest challenge you face as high schoolers? Like interviewing all these different professionals from a wide variety of places, backgrounds, experiences.
So I would say the biggest challenge is being more extrovert because before we started, we weren't the most talkative people there. But as this podcast went on, we started to be more conversational. We started to talk to a lot more people, and it expanded our horizon of people.
Extroverted.
Yeah. I feel like this podcast.
It's giving us an advantage of learning how to communicate to people in a better and more effective way.
I think, absolutely, right? I think that's a great answer. And you know what you're also doing? Remember, I talked about like developing different skills and capabilities. You guys are learning a lot of communication skills, right? And that is one of the key skills when it comes to leadership, right? You can have the greatest ideas, the greatest thoughts, but if you can't communicate them, right, they're not going to have the impact that you need. So that's great. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying your journey as well.
Sure. All right. Thank you for coming on to this podcast.
Yeah, no worries. It was a blast. And I'm straight up, if you guys are going to go to Penn State, like there's a bunch, like, Ram Kaka is one of them, but like there's a bunch who've been to Penn State, right? So whenever we need to make a road trip, but let's try to make a road trip to one of the Philly sports games. You guys have been
Totally.
sleeping. But hey, thank you. You guys, honestly, I'll just say you guys are doing an awesome job. Like I've watched the podcast that you guys have done. Like even just, I've told your dad, like just how buttoned up you are. Like you guys are doing a great job. So, hey, have a great weekend.
You could find us on Instagram, YouTube, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. We are the Future 3 Podcast, and we're out. Peace.